Upfront and Outspoken with Bob Williams. If you love the Constitution,
man is not free unless government is limited.
if you love freedom,
As government expands, liberty contracts.
if you believe in personal responsibility, if you believe America is still the greatest nation on earth, then get ready for an experience you'll never forget. This is Upfront and Outspoken. Here's your host, Bob Williams.
Some folks are born made to wave the flag, rule their red, white, and
And welcome back. This is, of course, Upfront Outspoken. I'm your host, Bob Williams. Glad to have you along with me on this Friday edition. And courtesy, whoa, as you hear in the background there, ladies and gentlemen, courtesy of Skype, my Friday guest, I want to say. My Friday guest, Jonathan Wolfman, is on Skype. Boy, Jonathan, I can hear you heavily breathing there. You sure you're not doing something you're not supposed to be doing?
Oh, I'm doing fine, and I'm a good boy.
Now, Jonathan, I brought you on today because I hope you had the opportunity to listen to President Obama's speech yesterday.
I sure did.
Okay, well, I want to talk about immigration, and I also want to get your input as to the latest developments that are going on up in Ferguson and kind of what you see is going to happen. But first, let's get on the immigration issue. You said you had something off air about this. What was that?
Yeah, we can, and people do, and people need to discuss all the ins and outs of the politics, and that's important, and all the ins and outs of what he's proposing, what they claim he's proposing, and what he's not really proposing. But on my show, Passionate Justice, tomorrow at 2 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Eastern, one of the pieces that I'm going to be presenting kind of gives a bigger picture. If you look at the census data, I think you can see what it is that the Republicans, especially the right, are deeply afraid of. It's not one little aspect of a law or one proposal or two or three. Listen to this. Here are the family names that have gained the most in our census over the last 20 years. And I'm going to then read you the names of the family names on the census that have decreased. Here are the gainers: Nguyen, which is Vietnamese, Gutierrez, Reyes, Gomez, Morales, Cruz, Flores, Ramirez, Diaz, and Ortiz. Those are the biggest gainers throughout America in the latest census. Here are the losing names, that is, the names that have, the top names that have lost their status in the census: Barnes, Sanders, Perry, Jenkins, Richardson, Reed, Gray, Harris, Bell, James, and Ross. I think this is what has Republicans worried. They desperately want to control the Congress and the White House and the Supreme Court so that they can maintain control of government, because pretty soon that party of white boys is going to be a permanent minority party.
That's definitely an interesting concept. I like to know where did you find this material at?
This material you can find, in fact, where your name comes at www.pbs.org, The Sweetest Sound. This is a PBS study, public broadcasting, and the study was called The Sweetest Sound. And one of my writers, whom I present on occasion on Passionate Justice, he's a Georgia man, a doctor, Rodney Rowe, from a little town, Clayton, in the northeast section of Georgia. He does a lot of demographic work, and he sent this to me, and I asked him, what do you think? Can we put this on the air? And he said, sure. So this seems to be quite real.
Wow. Now, I do want to ask you, more specifically on the president's speech itself last night, when he laid out his plan, and he was very adamant about the fact that this would only affect those who have been here in the United States 5+ years, have had children who are born and raised here in the United States, or children who came here and are naturalized citizens, and it doesn't affect anyone, after that 5-year cutoff period, or new immigrants that come in. And what I'm wondering is this indeed this new goal that the president is trying to do? Is it really going to bring out all 5 million? That he is hoping, or do you see that only a handful are willing to step forward under this plan?
Oh, I think you raise really one of the most interesting questions that I hadn't heard raised in the so-called big media, Bob, because there will be a few, as you call it, a handful of people who say, okay, I'm going to take the guy at his word, that is the president, I'll take him at his word, and I'm going to come out of that shadow space and see what happens. I think there will be a majority. Boy, this is a great question you've asked. I think there's going to be a majority who are saying to themselves, well, let my neighbor do it. Well, let cousin so-and-so do it. Let's see what happens to him. And I have a feeling that you're going to, at first, see people criticizing what's happened, because they're going to end up saying, oh, you see, the people who are here, they don't even want it. But I think what you're going to be really looking at is kind of toes in the water to see, in fact, if it's safe to come out of those shadows. Boy, that's a great issue that no one else covered last night.
I heard the president's speech. In fact, we aired it right here on the network at 7 o'clock last night. And that was what was gnawing at me. Was, yes, you're giving these people the opportunity to come out of the shadows, but how many actually will come out of the shadows? That's kind of got me wondering. And then the next question I had was, what do you do about the ones that still are in the shadows because of this fear? It made me wonder. We've already heard from the GOP side that they're going to fight. They're going to make some severe pushbacks on this. In fact, John Boehner is supposed to make a statement later this morning that's going to be carried live, and I'm sure Ed Till will be covering it. But we've already heard about this pushback. Given that this pushback is going to occur, can this executive order hold up, in your opinion?
I think it can. And you see, my guess is that it's a prod. It's like a cattle prod in the side of Republicans who have just refused to bring bills to the floor in the House, despite the fact that the Senate voted. What I hope our listeners out there understand is, since the Senate voted on a bill and passed it, if the House were to vote on a bill, both the House and the Senate committees would have to come together and compromise. But the whole point is, given the demographic data that I shared with our audience a few moments ago, I think that they're so scared about what's going on demographically in America that they don't even want to touch it. But you see, the president was right when he said last night, right now is when we have, in effect, an amnesty, because it's chaos.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. The thing is, President Obama also brought, when you were mentioning about the bill that's sitting in the House, that bill has been there for 18 plus months right now.
That's
a year and a half. And even President Obama yesterday said all they have to do is bring this bill onto the floor for a simple yes-no vote, and there are enough votes in which it would get passed. So
That's
obviously there was a lot of compromise that went on to get this bill together that passed the Senate, is on Boehner's desk, but he's not bringing it to the floor. What, in your opinion, why hasn't this come forth?
Because the Republicans in the House tend to represent people who are so afraid of this demographic drift that they see, well, two things I think are happening. First, they see the inevitability, they want to push back against what they know in their gut is the inevitability, if you will, of the browning of America. They're scared to death of it. Secondly, I think it doesn't come to the floor because Boehner knows it's going to pass. And then the real hard bargaining would have to take place. But you see, I think the Republicans in the House want to be able to go to their voters and say, well, you see, we've pushed back on this and we're going to keep you safe. The implication being, but it will never be said, we're going to keep you safe from brown people.
Well, the thing is, too, is when you were talking, when we mentioned this pushback, there have been rumors, although Mitch McConnell has been said he's not going to allow it to happen, that anything to do with this executive order, on a financial basis, the Republican Party is going to deflate any particular funding for this. In essence, aren't they kind of getting on the verge of saying, all right, we may not be able to defund it this matter, so we're going to shut the government down. Is that what America wants, is another shutdown?
I don't think so, and I really think that only a handful of Republican senators, along with more than a handful of Republicans in the House of Representatives, would in fact vote for a shutdown.
Well, we know, I hate to interrupt you, but we knew last time there was only a handful. I mean, Ted Cruz and company, the Tea Partiers, a very small group that forced the shutdown last time. Is it possible this group is going to once again consolidate and say, hey, we're going to do it again?
Sure, it's possible, but what I think the president feels is that his fail-safe, if you will, is the fact that built into the executive order is the rule that once there is a bill, a compromise bill, then the executive orders go out of existence.
Well, yeah, we've been hearing that all along, right from the president. The president has already said, all you have to do, hey, bring a bill to me, let me go over it, and if I like it, we'll sign it, and then this executive order goes away.
That's right.
Yeah, but we've also heard all the way along when President Obama was first talking about this executive order, Congress, when, I want to back up. I want to kind of put it in a little bit of chronological order here. Back before the midterm elections, we heard that the GOP, I can hear you breathing real loud, Jonathan, but we heard that the GOP said that we're going to wait until after the midterms, and then we're going to be bringing this up. And then they said, well, we now want to wait until, the new Congress is instilled in January. So, here it seems to me that the GOP party has been the holdback of doing anything. And it kind of put President Obama in the position like, hey, guys, I gave you every single opportunity to do something, but you sat there with your finger up your ass and didn't do something. So here's what I'm going to do until you get this legislation on my desk. Would that be a very close oversight of what's going on here?
I think that's precisely what's going on here. And I think one of the things that the Republicans on the far right hate about what he did last night is precisely that he said built into the executive order is the idea that once you guys present me with a bill and I sign it, then the executive order disappears. Poof, gone, the end. And that's what they hate, because it really means that any obstruction that they do that is wild, like shutting down the government, will be proven immediately to have been a temper tantrum.
I agree. I mean, it's simple. I agree with the fact that they're going to say that they're already stomping their feet. I mean, I see on Facebook a picture of John Boehner, crying. He's in a diaper. I've seen that, and I thought it was a funny cartoon. But the reality is that here President Obama has said, look, you don't do something, I'm going to do something. Then we have now suddenly Congress, rallying the wagons, so to speak, and say, no, you do this, we're going to do this. They're checking into legal action. They're talking about defunding. They're talking about government shutdown. It makes me wonder, are these guys actually just simply grasping for straws, or are we, the American people, because of a potential shutdown, going to pay a consequence? And I'm talking about the people that are on a pension. They're the ones that are going to get hit if there's a government shutdown.
Oh, yeah. And what it's doing, too, is it's showing up the divide between the establishment old line Republicans, who really you don't hear from beating this idea down. They want a more rational immigration system. They want order and not the chaos that the president last night described. Well, you're yelling about amnesty. Well, amnesty's what we've got now. That's exactly what the old line, very big business Republicans don't want. They're sick and tired of this. They supported Mr. Reagan when he, 25 years ago or so, tried his best to get an immigration bill passed, and something came out of it. But you see, the Republicans in the House and more Republicans in the Senate, they're not answering to the old-style Republican big business interests. They're answering to the, as you called it out correctly, Bob, the Tea Party interests, who are afraid on, frankly, a racial basis.
So why haven't we heard anything from the Republican Party about their plan of immigration? We've heard President Obama, but we don't hear anything out of the Republican Party.
That's right. And I think it's because their constituency, and just for the want of a better term, let's call it the Tea Party, they're afraid of anything. They think that anything is a betrayal. They think that hidden within any bill that would come up would be, let's open the borders and let's let anybody in here. That's what they really believe. They don't believe that even their elected representatives in Tea Party districts, they don't want them to sign any bill. They just want bigger fences. Bigger fences.
Wow. When you're talking about bigger fences, I mean, you're talking a border that's a lot of fence. And
yeah, the border is about as long as the Chinese Great Wall.
Yeah, so anybody that wants to know how big that is, go Google it. Jonathan, our time is up, are almost up, and I want to take at least the last couple of minutes to, real quick, about Ferguson. Now, we know the grand jury is still deliberating the, will they charge Daryl Ward? I forget his name, but anyhow, will they charge? Wilson. Will they charge Wilson or not? And tensions are already starting to come up to the surface. We've seen multiple arrests over the last several days. Al Sharpton, he's already said there's going to be protests on one side of it or the other side of the, even no matter what it comes out of this, there's already going to be protests. Is what Governor Nixon did the way to go about it? Say, hey, look, I'm going to declare a state of emergency, and if you do get out of hand, I'm going to get these guardsmen in there, or do you think he is provoking the ongoing strife?
I honestly don't think he's deliberately provoking strife, but I do think it was a mistake to declare the state of emergency, because that puts people even more on edge. I want to believe that he is somebody who is not interested in public strife, but at the same time, I think it was frankly a boneheaded move. I'll tell you the one funny thing, and I don't know if your listeners know about this, but folks, the Klan in Missouri, they have already made threats against any demonstrators. In fact, lethal threats.
Right.
That if anybody demonstrates, we'll come in and we don't care what we do to you.
Well,
what happened-
they didn't do it exactly like that, Jonathan. What they're saying is if you basically come in here to cause property damage or something like that, then we will use lethal force. I mean, that's kind of how it was. You know,
Okay.
but it's just
Well,
the
one of
idea. It's just the idea that you're right. The KKK suddenly is popping their evil head. And, we've been trying to get a member of the KKK on my show. And everyone that we've contacted, including the one up here in Arkansas, basically says, no, we're not going to do this because you're going to be against what we're thinking. A bunch of chicken shits, if you ask me.
But one of the funniest parts of this is that the group Anonymous, which are internet hackers, and they spilled all that stuff about the NSA.
Right. Even their video was taken down.
That's right. They hijacked the Twitter accounts and the video accounts of the KKK in Missouri for almost a whole day the other day, and you should have heard those boys cry. Oh, that's not fair.
Oh yeah. Well, the thing was, is we got we were able to watch that video before it was taken down on YouTube. And I'm going to say this right flat out, folks. I wrote the names down of all the people that that video showed up. I, in turn, sent a PM to several of these members asking them specifically, very specifically, are you a member of the KKK as alleged by Anonymous? Not one responded, but yet when I go to their Facebook pages, you can see how the supremacist mind works. They're willing to put it out there on Facebook, but they're not willing to come on the air and defend their actions. Jonathan, our time is up. As always, it's always a great pleasure having you on. I want you real quick. You have a book out. I want you to let them know how they can get the book and also a little bit about your show.
Oh, sure. The radio show Passionate Justice is every week, Saturdays, 2 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Eastern, and it emerged from my book Passionate Justice, a progressive memoir and essays. It does make a great stocking stuffer, and it's available at Amazon.
All right, Jonathan, hang on to Skype for a minute. I'm going to turn his volume down. Everybody else, guess what? It's time for me to get out of here, so stay tuned, because coming up right after NPR News, Ed Till will be with you until 4 o'clock. Until Monday at 6 a.m., this is Bob Williams. Take care of yourselves.